short title for today's essay is MJ is a Flag. Um, and the iconography you might think that I've got a fetish about white nationalist iconography, slogans, and such because they just keep coming up with such regularity under the Trump regime, the Republican regime, and on repeat, as we talked about earlier in the week, that the specific language that is used on your website for ICE and Border Patrol, and now Department of Labor and Department of Defense or War, in the recruiting session, the way that they're messaging potential recruits, trying to get people that are philosophically aligned with Nazi or white Christian nationalist sympathies, is to give these set these markers in the actual text on the government of the United States websites, various websites, that signal loud and clear. Signal is probably too kind a word. Probably a blaring call, a clarion call, a scream, a cry, a war cry for recruits that appreciate this particular kind of message, and that is horrible and frightening, and leads inevitably to events such as those that happened and continue to happen this very minute in Minneapolis and elsewhere. As of yesterday, I guess the next target was the state of Maine, which is a little bit puzzling if you've ever spent any time in Maine. The modest population is diffuse. It is even in the cities in Portland, otherwise, um, Augusta, there is it is not a densely populated area, and I can only imagine that if they're trying to target people that are undocumented, there might be folks that work in uh, fishing or some other sort of industry associated with the sea, because, as you know, in Maine they have a lot of that salty water stuff up there. But it's a big state. It's just not. They've been targeting predominantly or exclusively blue states, blue cities, predominantly with blue mayors, but certainly with it makes it easier for the regime to have the advice and consent of a governor. But as they did in Chicago, we know that they can go the other way too, and that's a lot of fun. What uh, what was alarming? We say that a lot now. Alarming, but not surprising, is the number of members of Congress that display flags that are directly associated with white Christian nationalists outside of their government office, meaning the offices that you so kindly provide to the senators and representatives. They have, if you've ever visited the Capitol, there are Capitol office buildings with halls not as long as it seems like as the Pentagon, but it's there are a lot of them. There are a lot of these champions of democracy. So, and they all need an office, presumably, to work and receive constituents during the day, and to perhaps harass interns by night. It's Congress; anything is possible. But in on the entry door to each of these, the anteroom, where presumably a secretary might sit, that there are flags. There is the American flag, and I would say probably all of them. But in the cases of 9 representatives and 2 senators that I was able to document, which are the Miss Capito from West Virginia and Mike Lee from Utah. Excuse me. Well, usual suspects, people that are way to the right of right, that they might be involved in such things, but to be two people that profess to be people of faith, to know that they display something that would cause so much discomfort or disgust in their own constituents. How Christian are they? I don't know. It's the all of these flags. Mike Johnson being the most glaring example because he is in a position of authority. And all of the flags have sort of a nod to either the Confederate era or heaven or some other celestial situation. One of them, the thin blue line flag, which, as you might guess, is and was originally a tribute to law enforcement, but it has been so many of these flags, including the more historically relevant versions of them, the American Stars and Bars, the Betsy Ross flag, have been co-opted by white Christian nationalists because they want to signal, what we talked about recently, if not yesterday, about a callback to a time that never really, an idealized version. What they want is an idealized all white before slavery version, but uh, just breaking news: slaves did not buy their own ticket and choose to come here on their own. Just in case there was any crack or ambiguity on that particular subject, yeah, that didn't happen. Still doesn't happen, and will not happen again. It's just very it's disturbing, as it was to read about the extensive use of these signaling word groupings, number groupings, and all of these websites. The eight symbolizing HH, which is Heil Hitler. The use of 2 words in a series, either of 14 words or otherwise, that both have a capitalized H. You Homeland and heritage, capitalized in a series of words that may even have a third H in the series, but 2 of them are capitalized to emphasize HH. Back to your friend, Heil Hitler. Right? Not a, not a, not an America that I would like to be associated with, but we're in it and we're going to fight to get it back. It just it's going to take some swinging. So yeah, I if you go through the numerology of people that maybe sat in the back of math class, and the clever wordplay by the Flintstones, and these flags, altogether, it's an undeniable message by the Republican Party that they're signaling their allegiance to white nationalist principles. Not every Republican, as I indicated, The only documented use of the specific flags that are in question are 10 representatives, 9 or 10 representatives, 2 senators. Are there others? Perhaps. Do others have items inside of their office that aren't visible in public view in a walking tour sense? Perhaps we'll never know. There was that one gentleman from the Cincinnati area recently who had a Nazi insignia as part of another flag, which he claimed was planted evidence, and he demanded an explanation, which I'm sure they all demand an explanation when they get caught. Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump are demanding an explanation on why the gosh darn Epstein files are still out there, and why the the legal order requiring the disclosure of same has not been acknowledged and completely. Uh, why that dictum has not been fulfilled yet, when it was very clear with dates and timelines that would be done. Now you can this is conspiracy theory era of all times. Uh, uh, do you know Q? Are you a friend of Q? Do you know? Yeah. So there's a lot of conspiracies out there. Why would Donald Trump consent to this forward-leaning approach the Department of Justice took to the Epstein files, when they had fought so vigorously to avoid disclosing anything more? Why is that? Did a clever strategist say, let's give them, just the tip, right? Uh, give them a little bit to satisfy and shut them up. And like everything else in the fire hose era, there will be so much other news. For example, your fearless leader's speech at Davos yesterday, that subsumes all other oxygen in the atmosphere, right? There's Ukraine, there's Gaza, there's the 7 other wars that Donald Trump did not fix. There is the ongoing fight. Xi Jinping, will he or won't he kick DJT's teeth in? There is not overall, because I would argue that Xi Jinping is the overall, but one step below and before DJT is your homeboy Vladimir Putin, who has a controller asset relationship with Donald J. Trump. The degree to which it's happening, in what context, what was the hook? You think, you could reasonably argue that all of the damaging material that's available in the world in regard to Donald J. Trump, how could Vladimir Putin have anything powerful enough over him to control him in such a material way? The fact that he does it, I think, is beyond dispute. There are some people that will debate that, and you're welcome to come up with your own narrative. But if you track the evidence from the time that there were organs of Russian state security actually living in Trump Tower in 2014, and that connection that went on from there, with spies, with oligarchs, some living in Trump Tower, but some also living in the Trump universe of what I would affectionately refer to as the Russian Mafia Riviera, which is Sunny Isles Beach, Florida. Right? There are some Trump branded properties down there that the So many of the units were bought up by such dear friends and family members there that it was. I won't disparage the fact that there were people that were natives of Moscow, St. Petersburg, Odessa, and otherwise that purchased there that have no relationship whatsoever to Russian state security. But it has been documented quite well that that plan that was executed by Vladimir Putin through his minions to begin the influence of Donald Trump for other purposes, and then this, of course, presented itself. Um, the I wondered what I mean. I know Putin is fluent in German. I don't know exactly. Of course, he speaks more English than he's going to let on because that's a weapon, right? You want to be perceived as not being able to understand things when you're I don't know, a KGB veteran, not in dispute. We know he speaks German. He was stationed in Germany at or around the time of the Berlin Wall coming down. He was in Dresden. He worked both sides of the wall, and he is working. He along with the Trump administration and JD Vance. This will be a story for later in the week because it's truly unsettling that American U.S. government representatives are working, trying to influence the French judiciary to go easier on Marine Le Pen so the Nazis can win in 27 in France. At the same time, as you saw with your own eyes, the presumptive frontrunner for the U.S. presidential election, Republican version, J.D. Vance, when he was in Munich in February, was berating the Democratic ish part of the German electorate and representatives for being too mean to the Nazis. It's not my interpretation. Yeah, excuse me. It's my knowledge because he said it. And JD did not say it in German. He said it loud and proud, like the proud boy that he is, that he opposed. There is a law, as you know, in Germany, the laws that went into place quite reasonably after the Third Reich and after Hitler's death, that are that are safeguards against the same sort of thing happening. Boy, wouldn't it have been a good idea to put some of the same structures in place in the United States? Could we have anticipated the rise of Nazis and white Christian nationalists in the United States? Could we have anticipated that in 1945, 6? I don't know. We could have. You don't have to be able to visualize an evil or a risk in order to prepare for it. This is not I'm going to translate this from the German scenario planning. The job of senior leaders in government, in business, in romper room, in any kind, on a sports team, perhaps. Scenario planning. We're going to assign a percentage that we will come back and revisit the likelihood of a particular event occurring in a time span. And then we can weight and score these things in a particular way, and we will revisit them with the regularity that our scoring system would indicate. Seems perfectly reasonable. You're a shattered German economy, and people are fighting over scraps of food in the rubble of Berlin Pankow in 45, and you're just trying to. You've just witnessed the one of, if not the greatest tragedies in human history, the Holocaust. You've seen this, and the information is still coming in. The horrors are coming on top of horrors, and you know you can. This can never again, never again. So from never again, we've made it about 75, 80 years. I know that there's an interesting correlation to 80-year increments, and we can go through that. But you know, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and forward to our current time, and that is that's helpful. It's everybody likes to be able to put a neat little bow on things, and they don't always they don't always occur on our schedule, uh, however convenient that might be. But yeah, I just the flags, seeing pictures with smiling representatives, meaning your employees, my employees, the people that our taxpayers, excuse me, the people that our taxes go to pay their salaries, the people that are swear an oath, they put up their little hands, like Mikey Johnson, MJ, and swear to defend the Constitution of the United States. And all of the same flags that they're displaying outside of their offices are the ones that were on flagpoles used to bludgeon Capitol Police on January 6th. American Stars and Bars. Don't Tread on Me. Betsy Ross. 27 different versions of the first Confederate flag, right? Disturbing as the words are, but you know they're not. The "we see you" part used to be uh, the fact that what sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. That transparency will win over transparency uber alles, right? So that it wins out overall. The folks that we're dealing with, though, are so shameless and so singularly focused on maintaining their power and thus the permission structure to let the corruption train continue, self-aggrandizement, right? Getting money in the account as fast as you possibly can before it's over. And the cruelty. In an ordinary world, you wouldn't expect to allow police officers to shoot protesters 3 times at close range while in a car that is fleeing. Your attorney general declined not to prosecute the officer. That I would not advocate that myself based on the information that we have. Yet, but to decline to investigate, which is the accepted practice of the DOJ in the case when a federal officer commits an act like that in a state. It is the accepted practice. The SOP for that sort of thing would be an independent investigation, and They didn't say, "We don't think so." They said, "No." And they said no almost on day 1, if not on day 1, which which is a flashing red tell of the fact that they're disingenuous and probably know that they have something to hide. But you don't disrespect the memory of a mother of 3, Renee, Renee Good. You don't disrespect her memory, but not by not even a cursory investigation. I know we'd all have doubts about it because he's like, "Wow, Pamela Joe Bondi's investigation of the crime of one of their stormtroopers. I mean, how's that gonna?" That's fair to be skeptical, but just we can't allow them to say we're going against accepted practice here because Donald Trump, his feels are going to get hurt. It's going to interrupt the fascist march to deporting his arbitrary quota for deporting brown people. Stephen Miller, Greg Bobino with his SS, uh, apparently well tailored, like it was a fluke. Nobody else could have worn it because it was tailored, unless it was taken off of a 3-year-old child dressing up for Halloween. But you don't want to be a Nazi for Halloween, kids. Just so you know, just put that down on your tablet or write it down in TikTok or something. No Nazis. No Nazis. Halloween ever. Otherwise, we don't need them. Be a proud German? Absolutely. Got a few in my family. That's a proud people, a good people. Our allies. The irony of the fact that the two countries that we're relying on more than any other right now are Germany and Japan. Germany as the leading industrial power in Europe as a bulwark against Russia. Vladimir Putin hammering Germany in any way he can to get the Nazis to take over more power because he sends the money. They will be beholden to Putin. Forget about Ukraine. Forget about uh, uh, fuel pipelines that are not advantageous to Vladimir Putin and Putin alone. And oh, by the way, France is there for the taking. And on the other side, there's Japan. When our friend the prime minister just called for election, I don't know if we called them snap elections in Japan. My brain just had a switch that went blink, but some form of elections on a more accelerated time frame because quite frankly, she stood up to China and her popularity is somewhere between 70 and 80% right now. Not a perfect, she is a little bit to the right of my particular politics. But will we trade off on a more conservative, I'm saying it like I'm Donald Trump, right? Like it's my choice who the Japanese people elect to represent them, which even if I mistakenly sounded a little bit like that, it's my apologies, because that sort of hubris that Americans often display, that Donald Trump always displays and always has his entire life. Whoever the Japanese people, the Japanese citizens, the Japanese electorate choose to represent them. If she is a little bit more to the, Mr. Abe, who was assassinated, his killer is on trial right now. It seems like a deeply disturbed almost middle-aged individual. It's interesting. I need to dig a little bit more deeply on that. But so the if the PM is a little bit to the right of, I joke, right to the Attila the Hun, not quite, but she's certainly to the right of democratic mainstream politics in the U.S. The equivalents, all right, whatever. Will we trade a little bit of liberal family values for a stalwart ally who's going to push back at Xi Jinping? Absolutely, because we don't have any other choice. Donald has already signed, believe me, I wasn't in the room, wasn't on the call. Donald Trump has already essentially committed treason when it came to our agreements with Taiwan in order to chill Xi Jinping, who he's frightened of, and get on with the business of corruption and FAFO oil tankers, Venezuela, and other places. We're not even counting the um, the extensive Chinese interest in Africa and South America, further than outside of Venezuela, that we are disrupting. Gilles, he's an adult. He behaves like an adult. He's not a grievance-driven lunatic. He's an authoritarian. Of course he is. But that that looks almost refreshing in comparison. Yeah. So I'm waving the flag for MJ, and not saluting the flag because that would be a little bit weird, saluting a Nazi flag, and trying to uh, explain that to my beautiful Jewish wife. No, I am I am grateful that you're here. I am grateful, as always, for the kind engagement, the restacks, the share off of the platform if you are compelled by God or your children to do so. I'm not joking about God. That's not nice. It's just these nationalists get me all. These Christian nationalists. If you take this, let me see. If you take white Christian nationalists, you take out the C in the middle, and you put the C on their forehead, and you tattoo it so we can identify them. Then they walk around with a C. No, that's I'm workshopping right here, trying to be trying to insult with an even hand. I want to be an equal opportunity insulter. I want to I want to take I may take the Lord's name in vain, although I value teachings. I've been reading more scripture in many from many faiths since since your boy DJT came back to town, because I'm looking for lessons. And I guess maybe it's also like going to a foreign country where you want to be refreshed on the lessons, because the vainglorious, and back to hubristic, which I talked about earlier, politicians in the United States with holding up the Bible. What is it? Oh, you can punish me when I'm wrong about this, or send me a note. But how does how does Matthew 6:5 sit with you? Matthew 6:5. What are we going to find there? A version of those that um, uh, I'll call it uh, uh, false prophets in a manner of speaking. That I heard an ordained minister in Minneapolis, and I mean God bless him, out there the whole deal, fighting for his neighbors who are being beaten by U.S. government employees in his hometown for the crime of protesting U.S. government employees beating his neighbors. So there's a circularity to that that is disgusting and appalling and wholly un-American, right? So because I'm gonna lose out at being able to recall the specific language of he's hoping Matthew 6:5, but humor me. Just say it's a homework assignment for a Thursday. Take a look at Matthew 6:5 and tell me what it says to you. It bowled me over at 3 o'clock this morning, but um, the events always overwhelm, and and I don't have the passage in front of me. I couldn't read it because I don't read well, and if I'm in the sun, there's less of a chance of that ever happening. And I can't ask any computer assisted devices because I don't know how to use them, and the wind's blowing, and the dog wants to go for a walk, so I'm going to attend to that. But again, thank you, and we'll be back with another essay sometime tomorrow, maybe an early one or a very late one because of other demands on time. So all the best and have a most beautiful day. Thank you very much.